Movie Show. Tonight's episode, Kicking It. I'm your host, Rob. I'm here with RDV as usual, and we're going back to our standard fare here of action films. We have an 80s-inspired girl action film called Karate Girl from 2011, starring a young lady that we're going to talk about, as well as a second young lady. And I think, RDV, this title is really appropriate. It's a movie we've talked about seeing for a little while. We said, hey, it's on Tubi TV right now. It's a great print, very few ads. You go check it out, at least here in the United States version of it. It's there. It looks great. It's phenomenal. I think a lot of the action scenes are very good. I think it's got a couple bad things too, so it's a frustrating movie for me. I think the really weak part of this movie are the bad guys, as well as the size of the ladies in relation to the guys that they're fighting. It's almost unbelievable. That being said, the net takeaway, I think, for this film, for me, from my initial thoughts, would be it's worth watching. It's absolutely gorgeous. And stylistically, I think it's a little bit different than some of the other action films, specifically martial arts films that we've talked about. I would almost describe this as like a drama film that happens to have martial arts in it, because it doesn't feel like an action film to me, despite the fact there's a lot of martial arts and some wonderful choreography in it too. Some really big pluses for the film. What's your initial take?
Well, watching this movie, it kind of reminded me of a lot of the typical Japanese anime martial arts movies you do, or just animes. You get the trope, you get the bad guy, the evil bad guy, even though he gets crippled in the beginning by her father, who ends up dying. This guy becomes the bad. He's in a wheelchair and he's got the glove on, and he's evil, over the top evil. And this is what you said you'd see in a Japanese anime. There's always the one evil guy. He has all the henchmen do everything for him,
Mm-hmm.
So this basically it's what it felt like to me when watching it in a Japanese anime, and I didn't mind that, because I've watched animes like this. I've watched Blood or Blood Plus, with having having girls who can do martial arts movies or moves and taking down guys twice their size. So it's, if you're looking for a realistic well, I'll just say, as far as realistic goes, she actually is doing the moves. She's
yeah, the ladies are legit. There's definitely no doubt about that.
There's no wires. And if you watch this movie, because the movie is right now airing on Tubi, you can watch Tubi TV online. And at the end of it, they show them doing the actual moves. And she actually does the high kicks and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. That's really impressive.
So it's not like, she's just, it's just they have a stunt double coming in. It's or having her on a wire or, So if anything, she's teaching these guys how the choreography. She's doing it herself. She's not, just like learning it herself. She's actually doing it herself, and she's teaching them, this is way more realistic if you fall, because what's going to happen if I really kick you. And what's really great about this movie is you get the bone crunching scenes in here. When someone gets hurt, you hear it.
It's not a bloody film at all.
No.
It's not violent in that regard at all.
Yeah.
It's certainly not. It almost is. It's almost like it's a restrained film, despite the amount of action in it. Yes. I would say. Yes.
Because if this would have been an anime, those guys, when they get their neck snapped, you would have seen teeth flying out. You would have seen bruises on their face. You would have seen blood. Especially in the beginning of this movie, when her father is slain, because the whole movie is basically about this guy who wants a hold of this this belt, black belt. It's been passed around through this family for the past 200 years, and everyone respects it because that house, that temple, is the greatest martial arts karate temple. So in order to you have to defeat that person, that whoever is the heir, or and then you with honor you become the new owner of that belt.
Yes.
So the bad guy who wants a belt basically sends a bunch of goons in the beginning when the girls are when they're young, right, much younger. It's been 10 years, so basically 10 and the other girl is what,
4, I think.
4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So when this is happening, and yeah, the father ends up being slain with a sword. But the thing is, you see a little bit, but it's not like you'd see anything else. If it was an anime, you'd be blood spraying out, you'd be veins just going crazy. This isn't like that. So I think they really took that up because they didn't want to focus too much on the blood. Well,
I agree. And the other important point there that you brought up, as far as this goes, is, of course, if we're supposed to be rooting for these young girls that turn into ass kickers, we have to have some sort of emotional connection to them. And we see the fact that the whole dojo is basically beaten up and slain, but these two little girls get some action in there too. And the thing is he has like the best pseudo death punch there is, and that's why their clan is the best, and that's why that belt represents a lot. And you get all this in the first few minutes for the opening gambit, and you're right, when he gets swiped with a sword a couple times, he was only able to punch the guy, and that's what like paralyzed him and put him in what we would see later in the chair, the evil paralyzed guy, which whatever. But it was an effective opening, and it really demonstrated a lot of what we were going to see in the rest of the film.
I do like the fact that the older daughter is laying there crippled in front of the dad, and dad sees this. In his last desperate move, he uses his technique to just basically restart her breathing.
Yeah, it's like he had, it's like, fire up the paddles there or something with his fist, because he did it. He can use his fist for death or for life is the way I looked at that one. This is kind of cheesy,
that's what she said,
but it was kind of neat in a way,
She said, she said about her father, and a quote is like, basically her father says something like, karate is meant for self-defense, but because your fist can either kill or it can protect. And you should never really want to kill. That's their whole belief system, because anybody can kill.
Yeah, and moving on pretty quick from that scene, we go into where we see the fact that the two girls are separated. The really young one is taken away.
Yep.
So then we're focused on this one that, fast forward to her being a late teenager. She's working at a movie theater.
Yeah.
And it's kind of neat because I'm not sure exactly where this is shot, but it's shot in a different style where you don't have that crowded density that you expect to if you're in, Tokyo and Osaka or any major city there in Japan. So it's in a really nice theater. It's quiet, and you get some thug that steals somebody's purse, and she inadvertently, the way she reacts to it, she sweeps the guy's leg and basically grabs it and just demonstrates like a leg thing, and of course it goes viral, and that's what sends the bad guy sniffing in her direction, because they know they need to get the belt, which they never did from the dojo, because
the father put the real belt on himself, and he put the fake one up when he was wearing up on the thing, and apparently the bad guys are also idiots, so they don't know how to check for verification. And I think what it is, they probably later on figured out that they had the wrong belt, because, and then the father's gone, and the daughter, who was told never to come back to the dojo, she took the belt with her. So they had no idea where she was, or if she's even alive all these years, for the past 10
years. His last dying wish was never let anybody get this belt.
Yep.
And it was a good scene. I mean, it was effective and it was simple, but you're right. Again, dumb villains, whatever. We don't know why they want it. They just want it. Okay. But she has some issues coming to terms with the fact that she doesn't consider herself a violent person. This happened. She meant to do it for good. But what's interesting with the bad guys that we see in their interest in chasing for this belt is that the young girl that got taken away, they basically kind of raised her, and so they kind of basically gaslighted her.
Well, gave her name and everything.
Yeah, and so she's their hitman, and she's really, really effective. And so we get some scenes where we see how good she is with it too, because we're like, it's going to be a girl fight, maybe.
I do like that the bad guy was like, we're going to create a bunch of teens that know deadly martial arts, because no one's ever going to say like that for assassins.
Yeah. He saw value in what would happen if he was in charge of the clan. It doesn't explain how the technique would get passed on. Again, it's kind of dumb writing or whatever, and it's just there enough to do it. But the fact that you're right, he was trying to get a teen gang, it makes it, like you said at the beginning here, it seemed like an anime where it's almost like a fantasy quality, where you can have these girls that are legitimately 5'1", maybe 100 pounds. Now they're legit martial artists, and again, Japanese people by nature are not the biggest people in terms of average height and weight. Let's say they're typically a little bit leaner than American folk, but you definitely see the size discrepancies in here. And of course, I think that's intentional to display how acrobatic these ladies are, which you do get. Because one thing you've talked about, and I agree with you totally on, is that when we see people fighting, we want them to have the goods, whether, it's Amy Johnston in some of her films, or Scott Adkins, or Chuck Norris, or JCVD, all legit martial artists, people that can handle their body, and it looks that way. So from the very front, with the girl sweeping the thief's leg to get the purse back, you can see her demonstrate, her leg strikes. You see the Manchurian Candidate twin or sister of hers, not twin, but younger sister of hers, seeing her kicking ass. The problem I have is that while these action scenes are shot very well, and they do repeat some of the best strikes. So you get like it 3 or 4 times more from different perspectives. I know you're not a big fan of that. A part of me went, it almost seemed like they were going too slow and holding back because they wanted to demonstrate it. I don't know how to explain it. Did you see that or not?
It was slow back. It wasn't really sped up, but I mean, if anything, they really want to show off. Well, at the time that her sister, who was basically raised as a different girl, Natsuki, she was only 14 at the time, so they had to, I figured they slowed it down just for her too, because she's, remember, But the thing was, what I liked about this, though, it kind of felt like I'm watching, like, and I know you're not into comic books, but like, this is what they kind of did with Damian Wayne, Bruce Wayne's son. He was only like 6 or 7 years old when he was learning like all these martial arts, under the Demon's Head, Osgood. When he got older, like 14 years old, when he was, I don't know if he's currently that in comics but he's not that tall either. So, and they wanted to make him like a badass. So, and so to make the girl Sakura, I thought that was kind of cool. That's her new name, Natsuki's new name, but her real name is Natsuki Kurone. The way she had that kind of the baby face going. She's only 14. And I was watching. I had no idea she was that young. I'm thinking like, wow, she looks really young.
Yes.
And then I realized, like, dude, she's like, with the baby face, most people would not expect that, and they have her to be like a killer doing all those moves. It really added the plot, because you could have had not her do that whatsoever. It wouldn't make sense. Because. So I thought
the main girl's like spin kick girl, and the other girl's like high kick girl. Yeah. And so they both have their styles. And high kick girl, she looks like the heel because she's dressed in black. Whereas spin kick girl's dressed in white. And to your point, she's a baby face. And
when he says spin kick girl, I think are you talking about the younger sister, Natsuki? Because Ayaka is the older sister. She's the one that's from High Kick Girl. She's the one that's the karate girl, the one on the screen right now. But
the one in white.
Yeah, that's the older sister. That's Ayaka. Or Ayaka, I think it is.
Right. There's spin kick girl, and then there's high kick girl.
I don't call them by that. I call them by their names in the movie, bro. Because it gets confusing, because like they both do spin kick, they both do high kick, they both do the same fighting moves in the movie. Especially when they're going off against each other.
That brings up an interesting point, because their styles to me were a little bit different, and they were dressed differently. Yes. And one looks mean, one doesn't. And what happens is the evil clan guys sent out assassin girl to go get her to get the belt, and so they have a fight, and it's kind of a neat scene because they kind of almost don't really know that they're sisters, but as they fight. And they have this dramatically different style. It almost becomes exactly the same style. And what happens is, and this is one thing that the movie did well, even though they didn't show any blood when the father was killed in battle in their dojo at the beginning, he mentioned about the history of the belt. The thing that was interesting is he taught them a specific stance that basically was the root of their power for their particular thing. And there's a nice little line in there about how if you see somebody with the stance in the future, they're a friend. Everybody else is an enemy. Yep. So the idea is that nobody knows what the stance is, and so they get into it. And it's a little different than some of the other types of stances that are out there, certainly from the Shaolin or animal varieties. But when they both end up doing it and doing almost the exact same kata and form and all that, then they start getting a quick flashback you see of them. And so they kind of realize it. And Assassin Girl basically kind of goes back, and she's conflicted because she's like, no, I didn't get the belt or whatever. And then, of course, she gets a chance to shine and kick a lot of ass. And then, of course, we kind of know, the girls are going to hook up here for the big boss battle at the end, which we do see. So, again, very simple template of a movie. Nothing there to really throw you off or go, this is extraneous. It's really dumbed down to the point where you can look at it like you were saying, like an anime or almost like a fantasy or a drama, because you don't need all this detail.
The reason I have it seems like an anime because it's written by someone who's a distributor who does all the Dragon Ball Z and all the different stuff. It's a Toei company. I'm sure they did Street Fighter, Street Fighter.
Gotcha.
That's why you're getting all these moves and all that stuff. You're kind of feeling that same kind of plots. Mm-hmm. And that's also why you get the evil bad guy, who's kind of so cringe,
This guy is horrible.
I love it though. I love it though.
Oh God, we should just do a whole stream one night on evil bad guys in wheelchairs. I mean, we'd
I
have so
mean,
many of them.
we could do, yeah. You got Blofeld, or whatever his name is,
Blofeld.
Blofeld, and same thing.
Let's talk a little bit about the way the movie ends, because to me, there's no magic formula other than simplicity. Sometimes it works really well. And we get to see these girls basically team up. And what I really liked about the final battle is the bad guy basically sends on the little flip phone, cell phone video of a sassy girl saying, "If you want her alive, you must bring the belt or she dies." Ha 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 ha. And they actually have the ha ha ha, like, you know, in the background playing while she's getting all kind of funky. But she walks to the bad guy, evil bad guy lair. What's that?
Yeah, you know what really kind of like threw me? Like they actually kind of spoiled the movie in the beginning when the guy's like, you know, the one guy who's always pushing the bad guy in the henchman, he's pushing him in the wheelchair, pushing the bad guy. That guy questions like, well, what do you think will happen if I told him that this is a fake belt? And so now the bad guy is like, basically they killed him, you know, for that, because, you know, it's like, you know. So what really came out, this really comes into the final battle, remember? Because he finds out it's the wrong belt. He's been serving this guy. This guy's been lied to. So he does turn on him a little bit, you know, but then he's like, here, well, we'll just earn it anyway. So then the girls are like, they're in their martial arts fighting stance, so you're getting ready to kick ass.
Yeah.
So the guy's name is Keith.
Keith is a big bitch. He looks like the bad guy, and I think it was Die Another Day, the really horrible Bond film. He reminds me of the guy, and it's the same guy I'm thinking of that was in Black Sails, which is a phenomenal pirate show on, I believe, Showtime. A wonderful show. Forget his name, but he's a British actor. It's not him, but this guy is really jacked. He's fit. He moves well. But he's kind of an oaf. He seems like he's really only going half speed in his shots. And this is what I meant earlier when I said it seemed like they were almost not pulling their punches, because there's definite contact in here, even if it's rehearsed, which is good. You definitely see them super kicking their way through all these bad guys and punching and kicking, which we like. And so they tumble like crazy, but he gets his ass beat big time here at the end.
This is Richard Heselton. He's known for basically for, you know, Karate Girl. And then he also did Salvage Mice same year and did High Kick Girl. He's mainly been doing a lot of this martial arts movies and stuff. That's all he really did, like 4 or 5. So and he's either a mob boss or he's like, you know, he's a
goon.
Yeah, goon. Yes,
he's the mini boss. Is really what it is.
Which cool though, because like I said, like this guy is like, it should be like you're like, master. You're Brian Thompson.
Exactly. Yeah. So she runs in there, and of course, you know, her sister, who's now, you know, being held captive. There's a few goons in there, and they're all dressed in black, and they're all anonymous or whatever. But what's really good about this scene is, and they do this to the movie, is that they almost make it kind of artistic, because when the two girls had fought earlier, they're facing a bay, and you can see like the coastline in the background, but you don't see a bunch of cars. You don't see anybody walking. I don't know how they did that, because you know how dense, you know, the cities are, and of course it's a movie, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful scene to watch, and the camera doesn't move. It only moves when they're actually getting really, really close into the action. You get a couple zoom ins and stuff there too.
You know what?
But they circled around really well, so you saw these really long, intricate, flowing sequences. And when the camera when the person holding the cam, walking in, was doing it, walking around, it was really beautiful to see that. Not a lot of quick cuts at all.
You know what I really like is that in the ending scene, it's raining outside, so you actually see. I'm looking to see. Is that guy in the wheelchair actually getting like rain ice cold? He is. Same with her. Even the bad guys, they're actually in the rain.
Yeah, and to me, that's an interesting point, because as they ran into this building here at the end, the evil boss lair, and it doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes we've got great evil boss lairs, which are filled with really, you know, books of bound leather and rich mahogany desks and all that kind of stuff. This thing is so sparse that there was nothing to distract you, because basically that was the place where they were training their teenage group of would-be assassins. So you just have this giant mat out there, and you have these lights on, which is brilliant, because it means it's a cheap movie to film the way they did it, but it's not distracting. There's not a lot of crap and stupid lighting and effects. And you watch them fight till they get to the rooftop, and then this scene is just like the one we talked about with the girls fighting. You know, it's beautiful.
Yeah, basically, they're in a water treatment facility. That's what it looks like. You got these pipes going everywhere. There's long, narrow hallways and stuff. Kind of looked like they're in some kind of water treatment facility. But then they are on top of the facility on the rooftop of that. That's what
And it looks like it's legitimately raining. You're absolutely right. You know, normally you look at the foreground and you go, oh, okay, that's where the water's going, but where they're fighting, it's dry. But
I was like,
you definitely see the girl moving back, and you can see her stepping in puddles. And you can see, like you see on the guy's wheelchair, you see rain hitting it. Even if it's fake rain, it's still hitting it.
Because it's white, I'm thinking, like, now is that guy going to get his shirt all wet? Because the guy's wearing the white uniforms Keith is. And then she's got the white shirt, too. I'm thinking, like, this is going to get interesting. But they ended the fight quickly because it was like a light misting rain. It wasn't like, a heavy downpour.
The cheesiest scene, and you've got to tell me, you got to agree with me on here, or I'm just going to cut you off. Actually, we'll see what happens. But what happened is it's really late at night, and it's dusk turning into dawn, and of course it's the classic. The rain is there. The clouds are there. The rain stops, signaling a transition in nature. The sky parts a little bit, and the evil mini boss guy, the big strapping guy, he's getting ready to pound the crap out of the girl because he's finally got a hold of her, and it looks like it's doomsday because he's probably 220 and she's 100 pounds soaking wet, literally and figuratively in the movie, and he's got his fist raised, and she's just kind of laying there, and the other girl comes up out of nowhere with a kick to separate them, and then the one girl takes the belt, holds it up to the background, and all of a sudden the morning sun is out, and you see the sun perfectly right in the middle of the hole of the belt shining through.
I gotta say that's beautiful scenery though, because I don't think
it was CG. Beautiful. I agree.
That was, and it really helps. It's like yes, good guys with the sunrise and all the right. It's because it's a rooftop scene. It wouldn't be right if you just had that and it'd just be cloudy.
I agree.
It'd be just kind of dull and gray, but to have that, the horizon, the sun, parting clouds, that was cool. And it wasn't like CG either. It was actually a real thing. So they must have just happened to be doing there like, okay, it's actually clearing up out there. Let's quick get this shot in here.
Yeah, and the best fight was this final fight because they go through both of the ladies and they beat them up, and it doesn't take too long. And you know what? This is what AEW and all wrestling foundations should learn from. I've said it before. I've said a lot in movies because I kind of compare them. You can overdo things, and these girls have to your point, they have similar styles. I say early on they were different because they were raised differently, and as the movie went on, their styles assimilated into one because that's what they finally were comfortable with. And it even showed them as little girls doing the same katas and forms. And you see them all of a sudden in here go through all this, and they finish up with a giant super kick for both ends straight into each side of the guy's temple, and he gets this dopey look on his face, and then he just drops.
Oh, what's great though?
It's awesome.
What's great though is they repeat it. It goes do. It goes 3 times. So it's like you get the instant replay twice, and they kick him in the face or in the head. You got that with some of the actually not this scene, but in here where she's fighting against other guy. She runs up onto one guy, kicks him, then jumps onto the other guy, kicks him too. Yeah. So you get to see that. You got to see that twice. So they really want to highlight the fact that she could do some of these high flying moves, kind of like Tony Jaa does. So stuff. They really wanted to focus on it.
That was where you mentioned before when we did Ong Bak the Thai Warrior, the first film, and I talked about how it's such an acrobatic film. And some martial arts films, I think today, I'm looking at you, Scott Adkins, in the ninja movies. It's like you're an acrobat guy that plays ninja martial artists. Whereas this one, to your point, it seemed like it had it's a Japanese film. So it had that Japanese style to it where instead of being brutally violent like we've come to know with some films, it has like an anime type film to it. It definitely is a different viewing experience than if you're watching, say, a Chinese film or Korean film or Filipino, or let's say. And you had mentioned in Tony Jaa's film that you weren't, it threw you off a little bit, I guess, the idea that when Jaa would do a move and kick somebody, they would replay it 4 or 5 times immediately right then and there.
Well, the thing is that when they first did it, they not only did they replay it, but the first time they did it with Tony Jaa's movie was Ong Bak. He was slow motion the first time when he was doing it the first time, and then they replayed it again 4 times in slow motion. I was like, why are we doing this in slow motion every single time?
We're going to make sure you see this.
Right?
No, but their finishing move finished the guy out, and they didn't abuse it. They tastefully did it enough, like maybe once or twice in each of the big fight scenes through the movie. And one thing we've talked about, too, with fight movies, even if somebody has a certain style, we want to see like a crescendo. You're building up to a big final thing, like a major chorus or ending thing, a yelling thing, like in rock music back in the day you would do. And, opera, you could claim that. But even in fights, we always say, build up to that final move. And when you hit the final move, it's over, finished, done. One-liner or not, that's it. And that's what happened here. They finished him off with a double super kick. Guy's not getting up. I'm satisfied with that.
The only thing I didn't care for was the fact that when she's going against the guy, Ayaka, on the screen, she was going against the guy who killed her father, the guy who had a sword. And this time he has a practice sword. He has one of those, the dojos, they have the wooden swords. Yes. I'm like, he should have had a real sword. It would have been much more entertaining. Because she had the nunchucks, he had the sword. I would have loved to see that, her, dodging him while he's trying to slash and he's hitting, the pipes and stuff, That would have been cool, too. More action.
And she looked really good in that scene with the nunchucks. I was like, wow, sometimes we see that, and it's usually a guy just doing his little display thing, and all that, and that's not whatever. This was really good with it. I was like, holy shit. I mean, if you weren't a believer or thought maybe she's just getting lucky or they had lightning in a bottle with her, even if you didn't know her background, this scene alone should seal it for you that, okay, this girl's got the goods. You want to know her name and you want to keep an eye on her because of the way she handles nunchucks in that
she's
fight.
Professional with them. It wasn't, and I said there was no stunt doubles. The stuntmen were the people that she was kicking.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, so overall, I think Karate Girl, even though it's a 10-year-old film and there may be some films from her that we will consider, going over later, we'll get a chance to talk about her development. We did want to talk about this because we do like the Girls with Guns type of film. We love these martial arts films. Like I say, the problem is with this film is it's the really weak villains that are laughable and how it's almost unbelievable these little girls can beat up big guys. But the film was shot well enough. The choreography is fantastic. It's a very good-looking film. It makes you feel like you're in there, even though the background or where they're at is not a character, let's say. That doesn't take away from it. The spotlight is exactly what it should be on. These two young women that end up getting separated, end up getting reunited, and going up the boss chain through the mini-boss to the bad boss there at the end. It's simple. And it's effective, and it doesn't take much if you know what the hell you're doing to make a good, entertaining film. I said there's bad things with this film with some of the, like you said, the bad guys didn't check if it was the right black belt and just how dopey some of it seemed. But you know what? If you were a 10-year-old boy or girl and you watched this film, you could, because it was action-packed, but it wasn't gory. And we don't need to have that in all these films. I like it, but you don't have to have it.
It's still, I said, even though I noticed those things, it didn't take anything away from the movie. I still enjoyed the movie.
Agreed.
I like when I said, I love it when you have people like Amy Johnson who actually can do the moves and also act.
Yeah, so, really good movie. I'm glad we got a chance to take a look at this here. You got any final thoughts on this film overall?
Final thoughts? Don't. If you're one of those people that thinks that women can't take on guys in movies or TV shows because it's unrealistic, it's probably not the movie for you. But I still recommend you take a look at this because this actually is worth your time.
I would echo those too, RDV. I want it to be believable as much as possible. Sometimes I admit that. That's just me. I get picky with it. That being said, this is one of those films where we see the ladies really shine and they do well in here, and some really great choreography, and that's one of the things I put in my fuss bucket with these martial arts films. You can't see it.
You saw that scene. I think it was the other sister who ran up on a guy's back and used that to punch another person, kicking another guy at the same time.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Beautiful.
The whole scene with the younger sister comes in with the other goon. They're all both dressed in black. They're gonna come in there because they're having a karate session because the main girl was asked to do a demonstration for the group of guys, and it's all karate brawl.
You know what? So, let's be honest. These two ladies would wipe out both Cobra Kai clans in a nutshell. It wouldn't last 10 seconds. I mean, they'd roll right through them. I mean, I'd like to see them on American TV.
They'd last longer than Miguel would.
Miguel should have milked that injury longer. Well, there you have it, guys. Appreciate you showing up tonight here. LK, Jim, T, everybody listening to it. God, these movies are so fun to watch, especially when they're entertaining too, like this one. Check it out. Here in the United States, it's showing free on Tubi TV. It's on Amazon Prime if you pay for it, and maybe some other services as well there too. But it's a very good print on Tubi TV. It looked fantastic in my
I should also want to point out
TV.
It's all in Japanese. It's English
It is subtitled.
So
but you know what? Not a lot of dialogue.
no,
It's simple. Your eyes aren't going to be going back and forth feeling like you missed something. It's not that kind of film. It's a very quiet film. Not a lot of dialogue.
nope.
And you know the movie anyway when you watch the dialogue.
It's straight to the point anyway, you know. So it's you don't have to worry about any long pauses. And okay, woohoo, subs. Not the kind you eat, bro. Just the kind you read.
All right, guys, there you go.
I want to point out though that since he's speaking about subs, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to us, why haven't you? Give us a reason down below why you don't feel like we don't need to subscribe to our channel. And if you are subscribed to our channel, please continue to watch our stuff, leave likes, leave a comment. Comments really help out the algorithm for us. So
the algo bros.
plus, dude, if you leave a comment for us, it means that it makes us feel like we're actually, pleasing you guys, making you guys actually appreciate what we're doing. Because if you're not happy, we're not happy.
Yeah, well, there you go, guys. Great film. Check it out. It's entertaining. I would say it's worth a watch. I would not have watched it had we not actually considered it for one of our top 10 films to take a look at in the future, whether it's action films or we've done Netflix recently, we've done other streaming services too. So that's how we get some of these ideas as well as from everybody else. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to the comments. All right, for RDV and everybody involved here at the Extreme Movie Show, I'm your host, Rob. Thank you for listening. As always, stay extreme.
Good night, everybody.